It's a scandal that's robbed Malaysia of billions of dollars and could put its former Prime Minister Najib Razak behind bars. Now, US prosecutors say investment bank Goldman Sachs helped siphon off and launder the money, and Malaysia's government wants the bank to pay.
It's the failure of governance. I mean, you allow corrupt leaders to go there, squander as much as possible, and the elites were muted and complicit to the crime. International financial institutions, and Goldman Sachs, of course, the name. So many others. I mean, complicit to a crime when you know for a fact that billions have been squandered from the public purse.
Goldman Sachs has kept mum over the allegations, a strategy it's deployed in other cases.
Thank you, Goldman Sachs!
In 2017, these Venezuelans protested outside its office for 2 months. They accused the financial institution of helping President Maduro's government skirt international sanctions to access funds from international lenders. Their demands for Goldman Sachs to come clean went unheard. In 2016, hundreds of people demanded an inquiry after former EU chief executive José Manuel Barroso landed a job advising Goldman Sachs on Brexit.
We
want the European Commission to ensure that Mr. Barroso respects the rules of the European Union, and we want the Commission to make sure this kind of problem doesn't happen again.
In February this year, the European Commission admitted Barroso had been lobbying for the investment bank in violation of the economic bloc's code of ethics. Once more, Goldman Sachs remained silent. It's also accused of helping the Greek government understate its debt from 1998 to 2009. And senior managers at Goldman were grilled by US lawmakers for profiting off its own clients during the global financial crisis of 2007.
Is there not a conflict when you sell something to somebody and then are determined to bet against that same security?
Yet the bank walked away with $23 billion in bailout money. Critics say big banks often only end up paying minor fines as punishment because of their close relationship with successive governments. US President Donald Trump has so far appointed 3 former Goldman bankers in his administration. And as long as this revolving door keeps spinning, so will the wheels of fortune for Goldman Sachs. Mobin Nasir, TRT World.
Well, for more, let's bring in our editor-at-large, Craig Copetas, who joins us from Paris. Hi, Craig. So much to talk about when it comes to Goldman Sachs, but let's focus on 1MDB for now. We've got 2 former Goldman execs who've already been charged over the scandal, and now there are reports that former Goldman CEO Lloyd Blankfein personally met with the former Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak and the Malaysian financier Joe Low, both of whom have also been charged over this corruption scandal. Does this go all the way to the top of Goldman?
Any investment bank deal executed in multiples of $100 million goes all the way to the top. Next question.
But in this case, and I guess in the other scandals that they've been embroiled in, could they argue that they've entered in these deals in good faith and they're not really to know what they're going to do as a result of Goldman's services? So in a sense, I guess, pleading ignorance.
Sure, why not? But the compliance department ensures that doesn't happen. What you have to understand in all of these deals is investment banks, most institutions, hold cash for emergencies. They ring fence it. Let me explain how this works. Let's say you do a deal, Oscar, that involves you making $10 billion over 5 years. Just broad brushstrokes, okay? So the compliance people and the lawyers look at that and they say, what laws might we be breaking? What laws might we be caught breaking? And how much is it going to cost us to defend that and pay fines on it? So they calculate that fine, they get that number, they ring fence it, and that's called the cost of doing business.
Right, interesting. So the Malaysian government, as we heard in that story, is demanding Goldman Sachs refund more than $600 million worth of fees that the previous government paid to Goldman Sachs for 3 bond issues. Do you think the Malaysian government will ever see that money?
What do you mean by get away with it, Oscar? What is your definition of splitting town as opposed to the legal penalties that define beating the rap? That's the question. Investment bankers have to be shameless to take the job. That's why they make a lot of money. So this is being adjudicated in the United States. So what's going to be the cost to Goldman? Again, it's the cost of doing business. Might they see the money? Well, maybe, but it's going to be a long time because you know what, Oscar? Goldman's got better lawyers than those naive people who are running Malaysia, who allowed this to happen in the first place. That's the real politique here.
Yes, yes. And as we heard in Mobin's story as well, the government, the US government, various governments have been intertwined with Goldman. Trump has a number of former Goldman people advising him. Not only Trump, though, the Obama administration, as you know, had ex-Goldman employees as well working for him, including the former Treasury Secretary. Is there a conflict of interest there, and why is that allowed to happen?
Well, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck and it walks like a duck, I guess it's a duck. And look, there's a great illustration of your point that just happened earlier this week. The investment bank JP Morgan issued a series of promotional videos on Twitter in English on how proud they were of their involvement in the French market. The introductory video, the lead and photographs, the video to that video, it went, "Our story starts with the financing of the war against Prussia." These people have no sensitivity whatsoever. They're in this business to make money, and that's how it works. And as they should make money, but where it falls down is the regulators and the laws. They're not designed to punish these people as they should be when they're caught in like this $6.5 billion bond scandal in Malaysia.
That's right, and I guess we'll wait and see to see if this 1MDB scandal will have a huge impact on Goldman's fortunes.
Hold your breath.
Okay, Craig Copetas in Paris. Thanks, as always.